have fired Tucker Carlson. Because he's a white supremacist? No. Because he wears a ridiculous bow tie? No. Then why did you fire your most popular guy? Because we just settled a $750 million lawsuit and keeping him would probably cost us more. Wow, well, we just fired Don Lemon. Because of his sexist, ageist comments about Nikki Haley? No. Because he's African American and homosexual? No, we're okay with that. Then why did you fire one of your most popular guys? We're contractually obligated to do the exact same thing as you, just the opposite. Wouldn't that involve firing a woman? You don't fire women. You wait for them to age out and then hire younger ones. Good point. We do that too. Do you think you can replace Tucker? Yes, I think someone can read right-wing propaganda off a teleprompter. Can you replace Don? Yes, someone can read left-wing propaganda off a teleprompter. We're really not that different. We're politically charged for-profit TV channels. And I'll say anything for ratings, and I'll say the exact opposite. All while exploiting their personal beliefs. So they'll totally trust us, but all we want is their money! Cable news!
Good evening, good evening, good evening. Thanks for joining me here with Conversations with Taz for Talk About It Tuesday. There is so much to get into. As you can see, not only was Don Lemon let go, but so was Tucker Carlson. And y'all know we're going to get all the way into it. But there is so much to get into it. But let's start with some residuals from last week and we'll bring it up and get it current. Okay? So let's get into MAGA and the Bud Light fumble. Like, they keep fumbling this one.
Lauren Boebert finally got it right. Hey, Bud Light, here's the one America wanted. Pat Tillman did give his life for his country, instead of remaining in the NFL and making millions of dollars. But he's not the conservative they think he is. Tillman thought the war in Iraq was illegal. He was also an atheist and maintained correspondence with Chomsky. And if you don't know anything about Chomsky, you might want to look him up.
Now, every few years, conservative Republicans get it wrong. They bring him up in order to have a gotcha moment and forget that he was not one of them. But conservatives rarely pay attention to anything or actually care about things that are going to affect them. Case in point, the Missouri GOP, guns and buses. Yes, I know it's a weird combination, but take a look.
Just north of Springfield.
Okay, so do you ride public transportation?
I do not. If you did, you would know it because I would be searching for someone to sue the state to get my rights.
I actually live in Fenton, Missouri.
Fenton, okay. Do you ride public
No,
transportation?
I do not.
Okay. Mr. Yankee, do you find this kind of strange that all these people that are in support of this bill either don't live where they're riding the bus or they don't ride the bus, but yet they want guns on buses? And I'm kind of sitting here telling you I ride the bus all the time, and I'm saying we don't need the guns on the buses because people on the bus don't want guns on the bus, because I've had these conversations.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, gentlemen. How are you? Okay, so I appreciate you kind of preempting the question regarding your public transportation MO. Where do you live?
I live in Northern Virginia.
You live in Northern Virginia?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. Have a great evening. Thank you for testifying.
Yes, Representative, please.
So the question for you is, do you ride public transportation in Arnold or anywhere that you go?
I do ride the Metrolink occasionally, not admittedly where I live. Bi-state doesn't extend into our county, so it's a bit of an effort, but there are definitely times when I've used Metrolink to get to and from the airport and things like that. But it's been years since I was on a bus.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions for this witness? Yes, Representative Engel, please proceed.
Good evening, sir. How are you doing?
It's fine, thank you.
Good. So I understand you stated that you live in Liberty. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. How often do you ride the buses in Kansas City?
I don't.
Okay. Thank you so much. Have a great evening.
Representative Johnson.
Thank you for your testimony today.
Yes, ma'am.
What is your experience with public transit? Do you use public transit regularly?
I do not.
That's because I asked you last year, do you ride the bus? And your response was?
That time it was no.
Okay. And now?
Knowing that you were going to ask me that question, I took a ride on the Metrolink.
Great. And it was great, wasn't it?
It was okay.
And nobody robbed you, nobody killed you?
But it was pretty sketchy. Okay. But it was in the daytime.
Listen. We're talking about poor folks, okay?
I knew you were going to ask me that question. So I took one ride on one bus during the day and determined that riding the bus was pretty sketchy. That goes to show that too much of the GOP purposefully keeps themselves in a bubble. They purposely keep themselves around the people in their neighborhood who would be closer in proximity to them economically than anyone else. And the only connection they have to someone with less than them is from TV. It's from TV. But let's take a look at what's going on down in Fulton County.
Wow. Fulton County DA Fonnie Willis filed a motion in court today to have an attorney thrown off of the cases of some of the fake electors that she is going after relative to the 2020 election. Georgia has 16 electors. There's an attorney named Kimberly Burrows DeBrow who represents 10 of them. Representing 10 separate defendants in the same criminal case is unethical and stupid, because your clients are going to have conflicting interests, and you can't do that. You just can't do that. And so I was vaguely aware of that today, but I did a little bit of reading. In 2022, the DA had offered immunity deals to some of those 10 defendants in exchange for testifying against some of the other defendants. Some of those 10 defendants are now saying that their attorney, Ms. DeBrow, never told them that they had been offered immunity. That's the conflict of interest. Because you've got some of your clients that are being offered immunity. They're being offered a get out of jail free card in order to testify against some of your other clients. And you want to protect those clients so you don't tell these clients that they've been offered immunity from criminal prosecution? That's about as egregious as it gets. Look, after the last 7 or 8 years, it takes a lot to shock me. That shocks me. That is shocking to me. Not informing a client that they have been offered immunity. Wow. That is mind-blowing. So the DA, Fonnie Willis, is essentially filed a motion to have her removed from the entire case for unethical behavior and for conflicts of interest. I would be surprised if she doesn't find herself on the wrong end of a state bar investigation after this. That is just unfucking believable. Wow.
Also, another update coming out of Fulton County with Miss Fonnie Williams. It is stated that she will be announcing this summer if Trump indeed will be charged and indicted in Fulton County, Georgia. Now, we've talked about them before. Got to keep you updated on them. I suggest you also keep a good eye out because they're popping up everywhere, whether you have children in school, relatives in school, or just care about the future of this country. Because the more they try to dumb down these children, how are we going to replace doctors, scientists, lawyers, all of these? Take a look. More Moms of Liberty shenanigans.
So just so we're clear, we have a Moms for Liberty school board member who recently took over in Temecula Valley, California. Her and her colleagues implemented an anti-CRT policy which eliminates Black history curriculum and LGBTQ history and curriculum from schools. Students didn't like it. They've been exercising their First Amendment rights, freedom of speech. We have an LGBTQ student who spoke up in a school board meeting recently and said that this woman's son is calling him homophobic slurs. So she went on social media to call him a liar. And now she's targeting a Black student who's organizing student walkouts. She got caught targeting her because she intended to send a letter to the superintendent asking what he was doing to punish the student, and she inadvertently sent it to the student she was trying to punish.
Yes, full-grown adults that claim that it's drag queens, the LGBTQIA plus community that's detrimental to children, and she's targeting to intimidate and bully a child. But keeping with the crazy, we all know that Dominion, although they said that they would never settle, thank goodness Smartmatic won't. Let's look at MAGA's response to the whole settlement. It's as unhinged as you would think.
I wonder how MAGA TikTok is reacting to Fox News this evening.
I'm sure you'll see by now, or you're going to see very shortly, that Dominion Voting System sued Fox News.
Yeah, for quite consciously lying through their teeth for years. It's great, isn't it?
And they won $787 million.
So the big lie was a big lie, yes?
You just have to follow the money.
Am I about to see some logical gymnastics? Okay, here we go.
It's very simple. Who is a major shareholder in Dominion?
Obama, Clinton, Biden, Disney, Bud Light, Jack Daniels. I don't know. Go on.
BlackRock Vanguard.
GPT to the rescue. Is BlackRock the major investor in Dominion voting systems? Our survey says wrong.
Who's a major shareholder in Fox News? And
is BlackRock, the investment management company, a major investor in Fox News? Our survey says yes. Okay.
Every other mainstream media organization in the United States of America? BlackRock Vanguard.
CNN? 0. MSNBC, privately held company, no institutional investors. 0. NBC, 1% via Comcast. Not a major investor.
They sued themselves.
Well, they sort of didn't.
The only two things that happened today was that they sued themselves and won $787 million, which means they get a $787 million tax write-off.
No. What happened today was Fox News was outed to the world as a propaganda network lying on the behest of the Republican Party of the United States of America. They are not a news organization. BlackRock is your latest conspiracy theory.
And they got a bunch of people to re-believe into a garbage voting system.
Or the integrity of the system, and you just can't handle that you are a bigoted minority. I'm sorry.
If you believe anything that you're seeing, you're being played.
Probably best at this point to go back to the Bible, because when data trails are involved, you guys lose. Now that we've put that nonsense argument to the sword, I have a question. Are the shades and the cap a uniform, or is it just a choice in the community?
After all the lies of the last 6 or 7 years start to bubble to the surface, we're going to be hearing a lot of truths here in the next few weeks. And as we hear those, you're going to hear us say, "We told you so. We told you so." Now, I don't want you to interpret that incorrectly. When we say "we told you so," it's not just informing you that we were correct. What that's really saying, and the way that you should hear it, is shut the fuck up, sit the fuck down. You didn't know what you were talking about. You still don't. That's what "we told you so" now means.
Hearing all kind of rumors from people in the know, brother, and Solomon's always in the know, that these depositions about the laptop from hell and about the intelligence community and what they knew about the election in 2020, brother, is going to blow up this town. Am I incorrect on that? Is John Solomon showing me a little leg here?
I am a little bit, yeah. So Mike Morrell, former deputy CIA director, former acting director of the CIA under Barack Obama, and Nick Shapiro, a longtime player inside the Obama administration, eventually became deputy CIA director for John Brennan. They were deposed last week, and they were able to guide the committee, the House Weaponization Committee, the Jim Jordan subcommittee, to evidence that the Biden campaign was directly involved in instigating and sustaining another piece of disinformation. You worry about ChatGPT, which is very important to be worried about. We had humans engaged in disinformation in the 2020 campaign. This was the letter by 51 security experts saying Hunter Biden's laptop was a Russian ruse. It wasn't, of course. But that has always been portrayed in the media and, quite frankly, in the fact base as having been an organic moment by intelligence people concerned about interference in the election. It now has its origins in the Biden campaign. The actual names of the people in the Biden campaign who instigated it are going to be made public probably next week. But the idea that the Biden campaign is directly involved in the instigation of this letter changes the entire nature of what turned out to be one of the most consequential disinformation campaigns ever conducted.
Now, keep in mind, at the conclusion of the whole settlement, there were a few press conferences. The heads of Dominion stated that they weren't done suing people, that they weren't done seeking out accountability. Just because you're on a streaming service, just because you're on a podcast, does not mean you get to spew lies. This is part of the reason why I tell y'all, a lot of times I just sit and wait on stuff. I'll research it. You cannot live in conspiracy theories. And the problem is the people who keep inviting these conspiracy theorists on, they know that the other person is lying. The conspiracy theorist, I'm using this very loosely, also knows that they're lying. They're willfully engaging in slander and defamation. Couldn't be me. Could not be me. And the biggest delusion hog of them all has pulled the ultimate trump. He put his money, well, I don't think he has enough money to cover this, where his mouth is, and he's not willing to pay up. So now he has excuses. But guess what? The call is coming from inside the house because the person who debunked him is just as right-wing as he is. Let's take a look at the Lindell letdown.
Remember when the MyPillow guy offered $5 million to anyone who could prove him wrong about his data around the 2020 election?
Today, I'm putting out $5 million to any attendee that comes to this, that's invited to the symposium, if they can prove the data is not the 2020 election.
Did you just say $5 million? Did you just say $5 million?
That's correct.
He was proven wrong. Oh, and it gets better. The man who proved him wrong is a Trump voter. A private arbitration panel ruled yesterday that Mike Lindell's firm has to pay the $5 million to Robert Zeidman, a computer forensics expert and a Trump voter, for proving him wrong. Zeidman reviewed all of Mike Lindell's 2020 election data and concluded that not only did it not prove voter fraud, it had no connection to the 2020 election. And after Lindell management refused to pay him, he went to arbitrators, which agreed yesterday that he was entitled to that $5 million. So thank you, Robert, for proving that Mike Lindell's voter fraud claims are bullshit.
And also proving that all of these wealthy conservatives aren't as liquid wealthy as one would think. Because I'm sorry, Mike Lindell, your whole little show, your whole little podcast shouldn't look like it shares the same budget with mine that's not even monetized. Be so fucking for real. Be so fucking for real. Woo! y'all know, all through April, can't talk. All through April, the news is not the news until we go down in Tennessee and see what else they got to lose. Baby, get a snack, get comfy. This is going to be a bumpy but good ride. Buckle up.
Well, hey there, y'all. So in today's, it's Tennessee again news. Y'all, I know for the past several months, we have been riveted by the shenanigans happening in the Tennessee House. However, while all that was going on, they were also up to shenanigans in the Tennessee Senate. I know you're shocked, but please don't be. Y'all, these two castor oil cocktails are Randy McNally, the state senator and lieutenant governor of Tennessee, and Mark Pody, another Tennessee state senator. Thanks to these two fine, upstanding American patriots, did y'all know that April 2023 is considered Confederate History Month in Tennessee? Back on February 3rd, they both issued a formal proclamation commemorating April 2023 as and encouraging all Tennesseans to increase their knowledge of this momentous era in the history of this state. But in their proclamation, there seems to be a little something missing. Including in this proclamation are 8 introductory clauses celebrating the cause of Southern liberty. But it says nothing about slavery. Rather, it declares that Confederates conducted a 4-year heroic struggle for states' rights, individual freedom, local government control, and a determined struggle for deeply held beliefs. Their little proclamation fails to mention that in 1861, Governor Isham Harris convened the state's legislature and stated to evade the issue thus forced upon us at this time without the fullest security for our rights is, in my opinion, fatal to the institution of slavery forever. The time has arrived when the people of the South must prepare either to abandon or to fortify and maintain it. Abandon it we cannot, interwoven as it is with our wealth, prosperity, and domestic happiness. The proclamation also erases from Tennessee history the 50,000 Tennesseans, both white and black, who spurned the Confederacy and fought for the Union, more than from any other Confederate state. Many people who support the Confederacy love to ignore the fact that slavery was the cause, and like to say it was for states' rights. Historians, however, have proven time and time again that that is wrong. There was only one reason to secede from the United States and create a new Confederacy. That was to safeguard racial slavery from the threat posed by the election of Abraham Lincoln. But these fellas don't think that that's important.
Justin Jones and Cameron Sexton was going at it again today. Cameron Sexton has lost all respect in the house ever since everybody found out about his mistress and his residency. Check this out.
Mr. Speaker, please do not cut my microphone off. Let me finish my point of order.
Representative Jones, I'm asking you right now, what's your point of order?
I'm laying out the reasons for my point of order. We've had multiple out-of-order comments be made from this floor on this day. No one else was shut off from speaking. We've had members here acting out of order, obstructing speakers. I couldn't even hear the majority of comments made because you see as Jody's standing here talking, this is what has happened all day.
You mean Representative Jody Barrett?
Order. I had a parent stop me as I was going to the restroom saying she's never seen such a misbehaved body of adults. And yet,
Representative Jones. Out of order. Out of order.
Is how do we get consistent application of House decorum rules, where it seems that the Speaker is choosing what rules apply to which representatives? Look at how out of order this is. Look at how out of order your House is.
Things are a bit weird here in Tennessee at the Tennessee House of Representatives, America's favorite new soap opera. Follow along with me here. Bill Lee, the Republican governor, is asking for gun control, and the representatives are saying, absolutely not, sir. You're a rhino. You're a fake Republican. Next, Republicans want to have a day to honor a Hungarian fascist leader named Viktor Orbán, who believes in the purity of his people and that Christianity should trump everything. That's true. That went through, even though Justin Jones was telling these people, are we really honoring fascists here? The answer was yes. Then, did you guys know there is a KKK Grand Wizard Day in the state of Tennessee? Democrats were trying to delete it from the records. Big spoiler alert, I know this is going to shock all of you, but the Republicans said, nah, we'll keep that around.
All in favor, say aye. All opposed, no. Bill stays in committee.
So then they said, how about we honor Juneteenth? And the Republicans said, Juneteenth, absolutely not, you Democratic libtards. To recap what I just said there is a KKK Grand Wizard Day that still is recognized in the state of Tennessee. Gun control? Nope. Juneteenth? Nope. But we will honor Grand Wizards and Hungarian fascists. This is all in the last 24 hours in the Tennessee House of Representatives. These Republicans are the worst. And they believe they're on the right side of history, which is even crazier. I encourage you, keep contacting them. Keep speaking out because you're making their lives miserable and it's helping stall some things they want to pass. So continue to do what you do, but my God, you don't need soap operas anymore. Just tune in to C-SPAN and watch Tennessee House of Representatives go absolutely bonkers.
And the reason why they believe that they're on the right side of history is because when you continuously whitewash history and refuse to teach actual, factual, accurate history, you're bound to keep repeating it. When you tell people that the traitors are the heroes, who do they want to emulate? And as I've told you all before, there are a lot of politicians and a lot of public figures that know how to control the narrative of their legacies and how they will be written in history books. So to them, they're going to be favorable in the history books because they're just keeping the tradition of the South. This is why they're always screaming and proclaiming heritage, not hate, where it's absolutely positively hate. Even the heads of the Confederacy say it at the conclusion of the Confederacy that lasted about as long as your time in high school. Say it that no statue should be erected in their honor and that the flag should be permanently put away and never flown again. And for the most part, people stuck to that until the Daughters of the Confederacy, which has morphed itself into the Moms of Liberty, decided to put up monuments and fly the battle flag to remind non-white people where they're not welcome. That's why they're so super rampant in sundown towns that still are around to this day. And it's part of the reason why Black folks specifically had to get the Green Book. And yes, there is now an up-to-date version of the Green Book. So you know where it's safe to travel, to stay, to eat, to get gas, to get a haircut, you name it. So it's definitively hate, not heritage. Because what exactly is white heritage? Hell, they don't even know that Viking is an occupation. They act like that's an ethnicity and want to claim, oh, I got this heritage. Really? I guess I should say my heritage is scientist since I come from a long line of them, or medical professional. Dios míos. But now let's get a little bit more current. Now, the past couple of days, now I told y'all about Bobby Kennedy Jr. throwing his hat in the ring for the Democratic Party, and we know that he's a dino, Democrat in name only. That's all. He is a anti-vax conspiracy theorist, cuckoo Kennedy. Whoop-de-woo. As we can tell, the family curse is still strong in the Kennedys. If you know, you know. If you don't, Google is free. Libraries are open. But there's another one who's thrown their hat into the ring. And a lot of people, because of the incredible, impeccable, chef's kiss, PR and propaganda campaign going on social media, more specifically TikTok, it's making her seem like a viable option against Joe Biden, since everybody is so concerned about Joe Biden's age and if he's going to die in office, as if we don't have Madam Vice President Kamala Harris, but whatever. But let's take a look at Miss Marianne Williamson.
And this is a message to you Johnny-come-lately Marianne followers that do you know that she was critical during the AIDS epidemic to helping gay men who were suffering with AIDS transition to the afterlife? She's a great spiritual thinker and leader and speaker. She's amazing for that. She's not a political operative. None of the things that she's promising will happen under her watch will be approved by Congress. And if you're a progressive leaning into her, you're going to be leaning off a cliff because she will guarantee a Trump presidency or whoever on that side of the aisle. And all you need to do is see how detrimental the state legislatures and school boards are sounding like to know that that is the future for you if you don't vote for Joe Biden.
I keep seeing Marianne Williamson all over my FYP, and I'm thinking, have people forgotten that she ran for president as an anti-vax Democrat? This was before the pandemic, of course, but New Age, spirituality, caught up in the anti-vax propaganda, that was her. I don't trust her.
Now, there are two articles I want to bring you. The first one is an opinion piece, and it comes from Inquirer.com. How RFK Jr. and Marianne Williamson unserious primary challenges could help Biden. Journalists aren't supposed to be starstruck by the people they cover, but I have to confess I was slightly awed when I arrived at New York Newsday in the early 1990s with ambitions of creating an urban environmental beat and learned that the person I needed to meet was Robert F. Kennedy Jr., a charismatic heir apparent to the legacy of his father, the slain U.S. Senator, and his uncle, the 35th president. I dealt with RFK Jr. as the then 30-something Kennedy was inevitably branded on a number of stories around his legal work for the Hudson Riverkeeper and the National Resources Defense Council, NRDC, and found him engaging, compassionate, warrior for clean water, taking on corporate polluters like Exxon and GE, as well as city bureaucrats who dumped raw sewage and failed to protect the upstate New York watershed. It's no wonder that New York Magazine hailed him in a 1995 cover story as the Kennedy who matters. Keep listening. I'm not sure how much RFK Jr. matters in 2023, even as last week the now 69-year-old Kennedy threw his hat in the ring for Democratic primaries and a challenge to incumbent President Joe Biden. His environmental victories have been largely forgotten for Kennedy's new persona as a voice for the millions of Americans who embrace conspiracy theory and dangerously reject the science around vaccines. I'm telling you, this boomer theory is reigning more and more true, that the older they get, the more individualistic they get, and the more out of touch they become. RFK Jr. largely avoided vaccine talk and launching his campaign from his family's historic home base in Boston in favor of populist themes, although he insisted it was 2020's essential COVID-19 lockdowns that had systemically wiped out the middle class. Bobby, do you even know what the middle class is? Today, it's no wonder that the likes of Donald Trump whisperer Steve Bannon embraces Kennedy as a chaos agent within Biden's Democratic Party, or that Fox News' Tucker Carlson, formerly of Fox News, rushed him on the air. Kennedy's 2024 presidential campaign feels like the ultimate embodiment of the famous Karl Marxism that history begins as tragedy and repeats as farce. Can I get an amen? In 1968, his father, who'd been the brother of John F. Kennedy's attorney general, then New York senator, also challenged an incumbent Democratic president in Lyndon Johnson and seemed to be forging an unprecedented alliance of Black and Latino voters and working class whites before he was felled by an assassin's bullet. In 2024, we can feel empathy for the trauma experienced by RFK Jr., just 14, when his dad was murdered, yet also be saddened and angered that his idea for recreating his dad's coalition is not appealing to middle class hope, but to its fears, wrapped in disinformation. Before I continue, I don't mean to sound cold-hearted, but this is not American Idol. This is not America's Got Talent. This is not an online popularity contest. And yes, I know you go, but that's about talent. It's about popularity. This is politics. Sorry, not sorry. You chose this career path. Your previous tragedy and trauma does not mean I'm going to take it easy on you and not expect you to do what I vote you into and not expect for you to do what my tax dollars pay you to do, especially since y'all, as voted in elected politicians, consistently want to vote to give you ourselves pay increases and food stipends and increased travel stipends and per diems, etc., but don't want to take care of the rest of us out here. Miss me with that. Because if you want to give sympathy to somebody, how about the parents and the families of all of these victims of mass shootings? Oh, y'all not ready for that? Let us continue. Kennedy joins spiritual guru and author Marianne Williamson as one of two primary challengers to the 80-year-old Biden, expected to announce his own re-election bid as early as Tuesday. And he did yesterday on my birthday. The similarities are striking. Both are roughly the same age. Williamson is 70, and neither has ever held elected office. Both have the same fatal flaw. Williamson has in the past voiced similar troubling views around vaccines, which in 2012 she called Orwellian. Yet both are certainly the highly relevant critique that America has betrayed the middle class. Everybody wants to focus on the middle class, but hear me out, middle class. I need y'all to focus on when these people were ever middle class, or when was the last time they were middle class. Because if you have not figured out historically, they play into your insecurities, your fears, and promise you that your needs are going to be met, but they have no idea what your needs are. Ask these people, how much is a loaf of bread or a gallon of milk? Watch what happens next. Second article, coming from Politico.com. Now, this is what I remember about Marianne Williamson, because this is not her first time throwing her hat into the ring for primaries. Y'all need to realize the last time we had multi-parties in any election. When it comes to the presidential election, do not be fooled at all of these extended party members, all these extended candidates. They're coming in to split the vote. Have you not learned anything from the past couple of months of people getting into office as a Democrat and then flipping to independent, which we know is eventually going to turn to Republican, or flipping to Republican? But let's go. Marianne Williamson, abusive treatment of 2020 campaign staff revealed. The best-selling author, Marianne Williamson, has built a career preaching love and forgiveness. It is the cornerstone of her second Democratic campaign for president, which she launched on March 4th. I guess try again. I mean, it worked for Biden. It also worked for Trump. Y'all all forgot how many times they ran before. It seemed like she needed a friend like Biden had in Barack. Sit down. Get it together. Figure out what you did wrong the first time and don't just give people lip service. But let's continue. But those who have worked with Williamson, as she has moved into the political realm, say her public persona is at odds with her private behavior. All of their public persona is at odds with their public. Never mind. Interviews with 12 people who worked for Williamson during her 2020 presidential campaign paint a picture of a boss who can be verbally and emotionally abusive. And y'all just thought it was men. Those interviews say the best-selling author and spiritual advisor subjected her employees to unpredictable, explosive episodes of anger. They said Williamson could be cruel and demeaning to her staff, and that her behavior went far beyond the typical stress of a grueling presidential cycle. It would be foaming, spitting, uncontrollable rage, said a former staffer who, like most people that spoke with Politico, was granted anonymity because of their concern about being sued for breaking non-disclosure agreements. It was traumatic, and the experience in the end was terrifying. Williamson would throw her phone at staffers. According to 3 of those former staffers, her outbursts could be so loud that 2 former aides recounted that at least 4 occasions when hotel staff knocked on her door to check on the situation. In one instance, Williamson got so angry about the logistics of a campaign trip to South Carolina that she felt was poorly planned that she pounded a car door until her hands started to swell, according to 4 former staffers. Ultimately, she had to go to a urgent care facility, they said. All 12 former staffers interviewed recalled instances where Williamson would scream at people until they started to cry. But this is your positivity guru, who I perused the parameters of her website. She's selling pipe dreams. There's absolutely nothing that she's putting out that's going to be plausible that could make it through Congress, anything. And she's placating. You can tell she's been watching the younger generations and their protest and the changes that they want. That's all fine and dandy. Great. They are our future, as Whitney Houston would sing. But the rest of us exist, and the rest of us understand how these things work. And just because you're president does not mean it's a dictatorship, and because you want it done, it will be done. That's not how it works. You can't just call everybody into a meeting and go, you're going to do this, you're going to do this, you're going to do this, you're going to do this. No. And her response is, these people giving interviews are plants. And there are even some former staffers that, well, we think that they're 12 plants. 12. Even in the most prolific undercover situations from the FBI and the CIA, it's not going to be that many, especially for somebody who's not a plausible threat to either party. She's not infiltrating anything. Because above everything else, she keeps pushing out that she's a best-selling author, that she's an inspirational spiritual guru. And people keep talking about her sermons and her talks. But I remember her being on podcasts and then admitting that she said problematic things in order to impress the host. Most notably, Seth Rogen. See, this is somebody who will be a chameleon to be liked by whoever's in the room. She would be no different than Trump. She's going to monetize the White House should she get in there. But y'all don't want to hear me, though. Now, real quick, let's take a pause for the cause. 2 and 2. Go ahead, refill your snacks, your drinks, and everything else, because we still got more to get into. I'll see y'all.
Have you ever heard of Amaza Lee Meredith? She was one of the first Black queer and female architects in U.S. history, and her story is so interesting. By the way, I'm Trav. I report on the queer economy, and Amaza Lee Meredith was an artist, educator, and architect. She's best known for her residence, As You Rest South, which she shared with her partner, Dr. Edna Mead Colson. She was also the co-founder of As You Rest Syndicate in Sag Harbor, New York. It was one of the first Black beachfront communities in U.S. history. Amaza was born in 1895 to a Black mother who was a seamstress and a white father who was a carpenter. Her dad taught her how to draw blueprints and build models and instilled in her the desire to become an architect. She would go on to attend Virginia State University, where she got a teaching degree and graduated as valedictorian of her class. She later went on to get a master's degree at Columbia University's Teachers College, but it was at Virginia State where she met her future partner Edna Mead Colson during her freshman year. The two women both became educators at Virginia State, and Amaza founded the university's Fine Arts Department. Amaza would soon start the design process for building their residence, which she would call As You Rest South. It was completed in 1939 and is one of Virginia's few examples of the post-World War I architectural style called internationalism. Meredith was a self-taught architect who would go on to design at least 9 other buildings in her lifetime. She and Edna Mead Colson would live together in As You Rest South until she passed away in 1984. In 1993, As You Rest South was listed on the National Register of Historic Places, and you can still visit it today on Virginia State University's campus. Amaza Lee Meredith was a pioneer for Black people, women, and queer folks in architecture. Let's make sure that her legacy is not forgotten. Please share and repost this video and follow me for more.
And as always, if you are on a journey to learn more about Black history or to dismantle anti-racism, whether it's internal or been indoctrinated into you, head on over to TikTok, give me a little follow, and follow my anti-racism journey. And as always, check the links in the description of the video. There are some resources under the Camp Taz blog link. Before we move on any further, there is an update regarding the Idaho murder case. This coming from the NewYorkPost.com. Surviving Idaho roommate Bethany Funk, I believe that's how you pronounce her last name, fights having to testify at Bryan Kohberger trial as part of his defense. One of the 2 housemates who survived the brutal slaying that claimed the lives of 4 University of Idaho students is fighting a subpoena that would force her to testify as part of murder suspect Bryan Kohberger's defense. Bethany Funk, 21, filed a motion to dismiss a subpoena Kohberger's attorneys filed to the district court in Washoe County, Nevada, where she's from, on Friday, according to court records. Kohberger's attorney argued that the housemate's testimony is key to the trial and could clear the murder charges levied against their client. Did they forget about the evidence? Did they forget about the evidence? Let's keep going. Bethany Funk has information material to the charges against Mr. Kohberger. Portions of information Ms. Funk has is exculpatory to the defendant. Attorney Richard Betonti, I think that's how you pronounce it, wrote in an affidavit. Mrs. Funk's information is unique to her experiences and cannot be provided by another witness. Funk, who awoke to find the bodies of her housemates in the upper floor of their off-campus home, has denied that she has any information that could clear Kohberger. In their request to squash the subpoena, her attorney said the defense's claims are without support. There is no further information or detail pertaining to the substance of this testimony, its materiality, or the alleged exculpatory information of Ms. Funk, or why it would be entertained at preliminary hearing, the filing states. Sounds like an intimidation tactic. This young lady is already traumatized. Funk's attorney also argued that the court does not have the authority to summon a Nevada witness to Idaho for a preliminary hearing. A representative for Funk declined to comment on the case. The Washoe County Public Defender's Office and lawyers for Kohberger did not immediately respond to the post request for comment. Kohberger's hearing is scheduled for the week of June 26, and the suspect has yet to enter a plea. It remains unclear what exactly Funk would know about the night of the murders that could clear Koberger as the key suspect. Funk lived on the first floor with fellow survivor Dylan Mortensen, the person who allegedly came face to face with the killer during the night of the attack. Chill. Now we have a new issue going on in SCOTUS, the Supreme Court of the United States. But before we get into these videos, let me update you on something. It has been reported today that Chief Justice John Roberts says he will not testify next week at a Senate hearing regarding Supreme Court ethics. Watch these next videos and you'll understand why this is even more problematic.
United States Supreme Court Justice Neil Gorsuch had been trying to sell a 40-acre property in Colorado for nearly 2 years when a man named Brian Duffy, who is the chief executive of one of the biggest law firms in the country, put it under contract exactly 9 days after Gorsuch was confirmed by the Senate to the court in 2017. Duffy and his wife later closed on the house a month later, paying $1.825 million. Gorsuch did not disclose the identity of the purchaser. The firm that Duffy leads, Greenberg Traurig, in lawyer circles, everybody knows that name, has been involved in at least 22 cases before or presented to the Supreme Court since Duffy bought that property. The conservatives on the United States Supreme Court are corrupt as hell. We still don't know who paid off Kavanaugh's debt before he took the bench. Clarence Thomas is a daily cornucopia of corruption and unfair dealings and failed to disclose this and failed to disclose that along with his wife. And there's nothing we can do about it. Anyway, happy Tuesday.
Well, what do you know? More corruption on the Supreme Court. Who could have guessed? Neil fucking Gorsuch has failed to properly report a real estate sale that he made 9 days after he was appointed to the Supreme Court. After nearly 2 years of finding no buyers, Supreme Court Justice Neil Gorsuch found a buyer for his 40-acre co-owned tract of property in rural Colorado just 9 days after he was confirmed to the Supreme Court. Who bought it? The chief executive of Greenberg Traurig, one of the nation's biggest law firms with cases before the Supreme Court. Gorsuch reportedly making between $250,000 and $500,000 from the sale, but did not disclose the identity of the purchaser. He left the box blank. I wonder why. That CEO's company has been involved in at least 22 cases before or presented to the court. So we've got Clarence Thomas. We've got Gorsuch. Who's next? Will it be a Democratic justice? Or is this just like a Republican thing? Because it seems that way at this point in time. Why the fuck should the entire country have to listen to what these bozos say when they are so clearly compromised? They're illegitimate, and they should either just be completely fucking ignored or dismantled. Or maybe we should just impeach these corrupt justices, because we all know that this goes a whole lot deeper than these guys being bribed with real estate property. They all fucking lied. We should not have to listen or respect any of these corrupt assholes. But what's gonna be done? I'm gonna guess nothing.
I'm going to guess absolutely nothing's going to be done, even though we have a Democratic president and we currently have the Senate. Nothing will be done because Democrats will do fucking nothing. That's just my prediction. Oh, but guys, Republicans on Twitter have some ideas about how we could possibly fix this corruption. You want to see? We really need to have some deep discussions about our voting system, using IDs and only in-person voting, except overseas military personnel, eliminating mail-in voting completely. This was this person's response to that post. So this is what we're working with. Apparently the answer to the corruption on the Supreme Court is to take away voting rights from millions of Americans. Because, you know, that makes total sense. I hate it here.
Y'all remember this lady? Marianne Williamson. If you don't remember, this is one of the Democratic hopefuls for president back in the primaries a couple years ago.
My apologies. The last video was out of place. But I told you all when Roe v. Wade was overturned that we had illegitimate associate justices on SCOTUS. I told y'all over on TikTok to start contacting your Congress people so that they could start the process of impeaching those that impugned. We have racked up quite a laundry list of how they are unethical, how they are being advised, how they are not being nonpartisan, how they have a plethora of conflicts of interest as well as their spouses. We're not talking about extended family. We're talking about spouses, the people in their families, in their homes. Excuse me. Kavanaugh's debt was mysteriously eradicated. We have 2 inappropriate real estate dealings with Gorsuch and Thomas. And yet, you Trumplicans that I know stop by here from time to time, what happened to draining the swamp? It seems like y'all just added more marsh, more water, more wildlife to the swamp. And for everybody else, why are you okay with this? Instead of sitting back having wet dreams over what the French are doing and then criticizing what we are trying to do here, why not, I don't know, join the fight before we turn into the country of Mad Max? I don't know, just a thought. Just a little thought. Just my little 2 cents. I'm gonna put it on the table. You gonna pick it up or you gonna leave it? Oh, they absolutely love the swamp. That is their home sweet home. They have gotten very comfortable. They've decorated it. They don't even care about the dampness. Now, if you remember at the beginning of the month, I gave y'all the calendar of the Trump trials. Guess what trial started today? Yuppers. That E. Jean Carroll trial. Let's get into this Trump legal news and updates, and then we'll get into the nitty-gritty of day 1 of Trump getting his ass handed to him. Let's go.
Jury selection is set to begin today in a civil trial involving former President Donald Trump. Former magazine advice columnist E. Jean Carroll is suing Trump, claiming he raped her in a New York City department store dressing room in the 1990s. And she also says that Trump defamed her when she went public with the story in 2019. Trump has denied the allegations. He says Carroll lied in order to promote a book she wrote.
Let's pull up the deposition. Question. I was curious when I read this, so I looked up the word swoon in the dictionary, and in the dictionary means to faint with extreme emotion. That's not what you meant here. Haba, objection to the form, the witness. Well, sort of. That's what she said I did to her. She fainted with great emotion. She actually indicated that she loved it, okay? She loved it until commercial break. In fact, I think she said it was sexy, didn't she? She said it was very sexy to be raped. Didn't she say that? Ms. Kaplan. Question. So, sir, I just want to confirm. It's your testimony that E. Jean Carroll said that she loved being sexually assaulted by you? Answer. Well, based on her interview with Anderson Cooper, I believe that's what took place. And we can define that. You'll have to show that.
On Friday evening down at Mar-a-Lago, Donald Trump held a Republican dinner where afterwards, for some reason, he got up to a podium and gave a speech, even though he had just dined with these people. Kind of seems like if you wanted to tell him something, you could have just mentioned it, between the appetizer and the salad, but whatever. Trump gets up on the podium and publicly announces the dumbest thing imaginable, and that is that if he gets power back, if he makes it back to the White House, he is going to enact retribution against all of those horrible prosecutors that have investigated him. Here is Donald Trump making this vow to those prosecutors. Take a look.
To stop the local Marxist prosecutors who release rapists and murderers while persecuting conservatives, on day one of my new administration, I will direct the DOJ to investigate every radical DA and Attorney General in America for their illegal, racist, in reverse enforcement of the law.
Racists in reverse, Donald Trump tells us. Which, of course, is Donald Trump's way of saying that he's very unhappy about the fact that you have African-American prosecutors, Fani Willis, Letitia James, Alvin Bragg, looking at his life. He doesn't want black people investigating him. Can we just all be very, very clear about that? That is what is pissing Donald Trump off more than anything else. But I gotta tell you something else here, Donald. Going out there and publicly saying that you are going to make their lives hell by exacting your political revenge against them is very, very dumb. First and foremost, it's letting us know that you're already planning to abuse your power. So there's that. Secondly, all of these prosecutors out there are looking at major charges against you. But they're also looking at potentially minor charges. Little things that, typically they don't want to pursue if they've got bigger charges. Things like maybe obstruction of justice. Things like perjury. Typically, in a prosecution from a state or local prosecutor, if they have bigger charges to hit you with, they will ignore things like obstruction or perjury. But if you go out there and openly antagonize these people, what they're going to do is they're going to say, all right, you know what? I wasn't going to hit you with the obstruction charges because I've got this whole other list over here, and adding another 3 to 6 months onto a potential penalty doesn't mean much to me. But because you are vowing to make my life hell, I am going to return the favor. And instead of ignoring these other things I could be going after you for, I'm going to go ahead and move them to the other pile of things that I am going to go after you for. And that is going to come back to bite Donald Trump. Now I want you to understand what I just said. I'm not saying that any of these prosecutors are going to go out there and cook up new charges against him. Okay? That would be wrong. What I'm saying is when you've got this laundry list of things to go after him for, but you don't want to waste your time on everything at the bottom of the list, the lower stuff, suddenly when he starts antagonizing you, causing your office to get death threats, you're looking at this stuff you were about to drop and saying, you know what? I'm not going to drop it now. I'm going to bring it because of what he is doing. I'm going to hit him with everything that we've got from our office. And that is exactly what needs to happen at this point. The proposed abuse of power on Donald Trump's front is bad enough. But the stupidity of going after the individuals who hold your very fate in the palm of their hand, I can't think of anything dumber that Donald Trump could be doing right now. But that is exactly what he's doing. Antagonizing the people that control his destiny. And that's never a smart idea.
Now, before we get into this article, Let me give you some updates on this E. Jean Carroll case. So, jury selection occurred today. It is unlikely that Trump will testify or even appear in court. The jury has been told not to tell, one another their actual real names. The judge made a comment, I'm paraphrasing, if your name is Paul, you can be John for a couple days. They're playing no games because we know Trump's track record, and if any names get leaked, we know how he's going to act. And Trump saying that these indictments, these investigations are racism in reverse, explain Jack Smith. But we'll get to that in a minute. Oh, Trumpy Trump. One juror, who happened to be a woman, was released today due to believing in the Me Too movement. And it said that the jury will hear from multiple women who, I gotta say this, allegedly were assaulted by Trump. We're going to go into this article, and then we're going to come back and talk about the DOJ investigation. But coming from CNN.com, CNN, that's owned by Trump's homeboy. Fiery opening statements mark beginning of E. Jean Carroll battery and defamation trial against Trump. E. Jean Carroll and two other women will testify in the battery and defamation trial against former President Donald Trump to show Trump's pattern of alleged violent behavior, Carroll's attorney told jurors during opening statements on Tuesday. 3 women, one clear pattern, attorney Sean Crowley said. Start with a friendly encounter in a semi-public place. All of a sudden, pounce, kiss, grab, grope. Don't wait. When you are a star, you can do anything you want. And when you speak up about what happened, and when they speak up about what happened, attack, humiliate them, call them liars, call them too ugly to assault. Now remember, when previously shown a picture of Miss E. Jean Carroll, Trump mistook him for wife number 2, Marla Maples, after saying that E. Jean Carroll wasn't his type. Carroll is suing Trump for a battery and defamation, alleging that he raped her in a Manhattan luxury department store dressing room in the spring of 1996 and then defamed her years later when she went public with the allegations. A jury was seated Tuesday, and the first witness will appear beginning Wednesday. Baby, this is about to get good. And y'all know I will be watching every bit of it. I did, the United States the world is getting so ghetto with the news. I had to let go of the handy dandy notebook and move on to the handy dandy clipboard, but I have all the good. Carroll is expected to testify Wednesday, according to a source familiar with the matter. The first witness is expected to be Cheryl Beale, who worked at Bergdorf Goodman, the source said. You, of course, are going to hear from Ms. Carroll herself, Crowley said. She will testify about her traumatic encounter with Donald Trump, about her decision to stay silent so long, and about how, when she finally did speak publicly, Donald Trump responded with vicious lies meant to destroy her. Carroll will candidly acknowledge the shame she felt about the alleged assault and her decision not to come forward sooner. How could she tell the world that she had been dumb enough to go into a dressing room with Donald Trump? Carroll thought to herself, according to her attorney. Honey, he ain't never been attractive. But he has been trying to be people's sugar daddies. So we understand. At the time, Carroll didn't view Trump as dangerous, but a character and a man about time, Crowley said. Nobody would have picked him as dangerous. Nobody. Like, his hands aren't that. Never mind. Jurors won't have to base their decision solely on Carroll's testimony, the attorney said, because 2 friends to Carroll will corroborate her account, and 2 former Bergdorf Goodman employees who worked at the store in 1996 will corroborate details of Carroll's account. They'll testify that they personally saw Trump shop at Bergdorf Goodman several times during that time period, a fact Trump has previously contested. Doesn't he always? It's like, just tell the truth. If you just go, yeah, I was shopping there, you look less guilty. But he increases it. You know what? Anyhow. But y'all, let's get into these updates regarding the DOJ investigation, the Department of Justice investigation, aka the Special Master Jack Smith. He is knocking it out the park. So Jack Smith asked the attorney for Abby Grossman for recordings. Now, Abby Grossman is the one that is currently suing Fox News and Tucker Carlson for discrimination and unhealthy, volatile workplace. As always, check the links in the description of this video. There is information regarding that. Now, these recordings include, but not are excluded to, there's more, but this is what we know about thus far. Rafael, Ted Cruz, coup admission. Rudy Giuliani admitting that there's no voter fraud evidence. But this right here is the kicker of all kickers that came out today. Jack Smith was involved in the Dominion investigation regarding the Dominion v. Fox lawsuit. It's beginning to get a lot more clear as to why Tucky Tuck was let go. Like, he's more of a liability than anything. And Marjorie, Lauren, Matt Gaetz, I'll be watching out. Now, before we move on to the Tucker Carlson news, I do want to update you all regarding the Alabama birthday shooting. Their first hearings were held today. It appears that thus far, they've determined that 7 different handguns were used. And there was almost 100 bullet casings that were found on the scene. There were 2 guns, one found laying awkwardly on top of one of the victims that unfortunately did not survive. And then there was another firearm that was found on the body of another victim that did not survive, but that firearm did not appear to have ever been fired. Still, as of today, no motive has been disclosed as of yet, and a sixth suspect has been arrested, but has not been identified because they are 15. So I'm guessing they're determining whether or not to charge them as an adult. Now, y'all, let's get into the rabbit hole that is Tucker Carlson. Let's go.
Tucker Carlson is continuing to have the week from hell. As more information comes out from Abby Grossberg's lawsuit, Tucker Carlson commented about loving the idea of teen girls experimenting with when discussing activity of 14-year-old girls at his child's boarding school. If it weren't my daughter, I would love that scenario. Every single one of the accusations that they make is projection. Everyone.
As expected, more information is coming out about Tucker Carlson's separation from Fox News, and it looks like he finally pissed off the big guys a little bit too much. Plus, it sounds like Abby Grossberg's lawsuit against Fox News that was filed in the state of New York, which I mentioned before, it sounds like that might have something to do with this too. This came from the top, Rupert Murdoch himself and the Fox board of directors. Now, Murdoch is the one who elevated Carlson from contributor to host in the first place, so he must have really, really pissed these guys off, and the story explains a little bit maybe why. Now, this is one that I'm going to do an entirely separate video on because some of the things that are in the lawsuit are just insanely, I don't want to say funny, but they're kind of funny. But Abby Grossberg's lawsuit has apparently something to do with this. And on top of that, apparently Murdoch and probably the board of directors were concerned about the way that Carlson has portrayed January 6th, which I'm sure was exacerbated by the tapes that Kevin McCarthy gave to him. They also may have been worried about Tucker Carlson's renewed connection with Donald Trump because despite all the shitty things that he said about Trump in those private messages, apparently he and Trump have patched things up, and apparently they're closer now than they ever have been before. This is reporting from the New York Times. In fact, Trump is going on Newsmax tonight to talk with Greg Kelly about Carlson's ouster. But more importantly, let's talk about Nancy Pelosi in a bikini, because apparently, according to Ms. Grossberg's lawsuit, when on her first day on the job at Tucker Carlson tonight, she was shocked to walk in and find blown-up pictures of Nancy Pelosi in a bathing suit.
Fox News did not want to remove Tucker Carlson because, as you pointed out, he was the second highest rated program on the network next to the 5, and he was the most well-known individual host. So they didn't want to move him out. But there are lawsuits coming on the wake of Dominion. They lost $800 million plus on Dominion. And now you have Smartmatic coming up, and you have 2 individual lawsuits, actually one filed and one that may be filed. And that was the key. So one of Tucker Carlson's producers apparently taped a whole bunch of stuff. Her lawyer went into the Fox attorneys and said, unless you pay so-and-so some money, we're going to sue you. And Fox said, we're not paying, so they filed suit in New York City, and they had the tapes, and those tapes may be released to the public, all right? And they're not good tapes for the Carlson program. Second thing was last night on 60 Minutes. Ray Epps, you may remember that name, said to the audience, Tucker Carlson ruined my life and my family's life by accusing me of having some kind of provocative role in the January 6th riots at the Capitol. That was setting Epps up for a massive lawsuit against Fox News and Tucker Carlson. So that's 3 lawsuits we know about, and there'll be more by shareholders who are angry about the $800 million settlement, and they're going to go after the Murdochs and the board of directors. Faced with that, the board of directors said, we got to start cleaning this up.
Now, I'm a firm believer in letting Tucker Dum-Dum, just like the idiot that just spoke, bounce around from right-wing media outlet to right-wing media outlet and let his lies and ego burn them all down. But I want y'all to pay very, very close attention to this next video. Not only that, at the conclusion of this, or you can pause it and go look, in the description of this video, you'll see today's audio podcast, which is, I try to keep it to 5 minutes or less. It gives some additional thoughts regarding the whole Tucker Carlson thing. But pay close attention to this next video. I'll see y'all in 2 and 2.
Hey y'all, it's Kelt, and if you paid attention to the news on Monday, April 24th, then you're probably aware that Tucker Carlson was fired from Fox News. And we need to talk about it. So when the news first broke that Tucker Carlson was no longer going to be on Fox News, many people were very skeptical, rightfully so. But it was quickly confirmed by Fox News themselves that Tucker Carlson would no longer be a part of the network. And this caused social media to explode with speculation from people of all sides of the political aisle. Leftists and liberals were opining did this have something to do with the defamation suit that Fox just settled about the voting machines and the election fraud cases. Also wondering if this has anything to do with the upcoming lawsuit that Fox is facing from a former Fox employee, also related to the election fraud claims. And those are actually 2 very reasonable guesses, because that lawsuit that was just settled cost Fox News a lot of money, and this upcoming lawsuit may very well cost them a lot more money. And as Bo of the Fifth Column pointed out in one of his videos, Fox fired Bill O'Reilly for a lot less money than Tucker Carlson just cost Fox News. And it has been confirmed by anonymous sources that Tucker was fired and didn't just go his separate ways like Tucker and Fox are trying to make it seem. But the interesting part is when we look at the reaction of the Tucker supporters, the people on the right, the ultra MAGA. And it's a very varied response by people on the right, which is not to be unexpected. Tucker was the most popular person on Fox News. He drew in viewers from all facets of the political right, from the ones who were just slightly center-right, all the way to the far-right and alt-right extremists. Tucker Carlson is the undisputed king of mainstream media far-right propaganda and disinformation. The majority consensus among many people on the right is this is the end of Fox News. And while that may not actually be the case, more than likely this is not going to cause Fox News to file for bankruptcy. Their stock price took a major hit after it was announced that Tucker would no longer be on the network. As for the conspiracy theories of why he's no longer on the network, we have the normal one you would expect, that it was the deep state who did it. People making the claim that since Tucker fights against the deep state, that this is proof that he was about to drop some big revelation against the deep state. Unfortunately, they're reinforcing reinforcing their belief of this conspiracy theory due to an interview that AOC did in which she specifically named Tucker Carlson as someone that the government should be enforcing regulations on for inciting violence.
Federal regulation in terms of what's allowed on air and what isn't. And when you look at what Tucker Carlson and some of these other folks on Fox do, it is very, very clearly incitement of violence. Very clearly incitement of violence. And that is the line that I think we have to be willing to contend with.
With AOC being the closest thing we have to a progressive politician currently in office, they're going to view her as a member of the deep state and use whatever she says as a backing for this conspiracy theory. That's not AOC's fault. That's just what conspiracy theorists do. Even the less cloak and dagger of the conspiracy theories that are making the assertion that it may have been government interference without the whole deep state allegations are referencing AOC's speech. Again, not AOC's fault, because they're going to latch onto anything they can use to reinforce their worldview and conspiracies. The remaining right-wing theories of why Tucker Carlson may no longer appear on Fox News include the 60 Minutes documentary on Ray Epps. For those of you who don't know, Tucker Carlson pushed this conspiracy theory that Ray Epps was a federal agent there to incite violence on January 6th to make MAGA look bad. And the final theory that the right was pushing was that Tucker wanted to get himself fired so that he could announce his bid for the 2024 presidential elections. And as much of a nightmare that would be, I don't think that Tucker Carlson is going to announce a 2024 bid for the presidential election because of all the money that is currently on the table for him now that he has been fired from Fox News. Unfortunately with this, those of us on the left celebrated a little too hard, a little too early. Now don't get me wrong, this is something to celebrate. This is a major blow to disinformation and propaganda within mainstream media. But this is the one time you will probably ever get me on record saying that there is something that was said by both Tim Pool and Cat Turd that I actually agree with. Tim points out that Tucker knows that he'll make $100 million a year on his own, and this is something that I believe. Tucker knows this, and it's a very high possibility that that is the amount of money that Tucker is looking at now that he is a free agent. And the reason that amount of money is on the table is because of what Cat Turd says. Tucker can now start his own thing and say whatever he wants. This makes him 100 times more powerful. This is unfortunately 100% true, and as much as I hate to say it, Fox News reeled in someone like Tucker Carlson. They set limitations on him. Rupert Murdoch does not like to lose money. He does not like being sued. Like I said, there's a strong chance that this is the reason Tucker was fired, was because he cost Fox News money. Fox News letting Tucker Carlson amplify Donald Trump's claims that the election stolen was the safe bet. And we know that Tucker Carlson knows how to start his own media company. He already did it with the Daily Caller. Granted, he sold his shares of that back in 2020. But it wouldn't be too hard for him to do it again or jump into the Daily Caller just as a commentator and an employee, or even move on to something like the Daily Wire. You know, the Daily Wire, the company that hosts Ben Shapiro, Candace Owens, Michael Knowles, and Matt Walsh and actively pushes for things like transgenocide. Yeah, imagine how much free reign they would give someone like Tucker Carlson, someone that they consider very charismatic and would bring a very large viewing audience to them. More than likely, Tucker could write his own scripts without any oversight whatsoever. The other issue is we already know how much Tucker loves the Russian government and his hero Vladimir Putin. There's current reporting that Tucker is already receiving offers from state-owned Russian media. And this isn't a first, nor is it something that's unheard of. Russian state-owned media reaches out and hires American citizens as anchors and commentators all the time. He was already pushing Russian disinformation and propaganda about the war in Ukraine while he was working for Fox News. Doing it directly for the Kremlin is the next logical step. What this means is Tucker's audience will diminish slightly in the short term, but Tucker does have the ability to build it back in the long term. Tucker Carlson no longer being on Fox News will be a hit for Fox News to be able to push out disinformation and propaganda. Whatever company picks up Tucker will get a major boost to their disinformation and propaganda campaigns. And unfortunately, Fox News was not the most extremist network out there. We're looking at Tucker going to a more extreme network. So celebrate this short-term victory. I know I did. I tweeted out on Monday that I was celebrating the fact that the video I posted on Monday had a higher viewership than Tucker Carlson's show. But realize this victory is short-term. Just because this happened does not mean we can stop fighting Tucker Carlson's brand of propaganda and disinformation that is used to incite violence across our country. Because while his audience will temporarily lessen, his audience will become more extreme as he branches out into new networks. We are not seeing the end of Tucker Carlson's propaganda and disinformation. We are seeing the next stage and evolution of it. So remember, be safe, be vigilant, think critically, and I love you all. Till next time.
The reasons Tucker Carlson was fired from Fox News have become a little clearer as cable news media faces
the most manic of Mondays ever. So, according to the LA Times, Carlson's firing came directly from head honcho Rupert Murdoch, and there appears to be a multitude of reasons why he was fired. But it was abrupt nonetheless, as Fox News were promoting a Carlson interview that he had previously recorded for a show this week as late as this morning. The first reason is said to be a discrimination lawsuit from producer Ali Grossberg, who alleged anti-Semitism and bullying after she was moved to Carlson's show from another Fox News show, Sunday Futures. There's also comments Carlson made about some of the higher-ups in Fox News that came to light during the Dominion lawsuit. Murdoch, though, was said to be becoming increasingly uncomfortable with Carlson's pushing of conspiracy theories around the January 6th insurrection. This includes saying that Ray Epps was an FBI plant, something which he denies and says has ruined his life. So in the meantime, we'll see a conveyor belt of Fox News personalities covering the much coveted 8 p.m. slot until a permanent host is found.
This is what happens when you take participation trophy Nepo babies and push them to the forefront. They get such a boost to their ego. You get Tucker Carlson, Donald Trump. Y'all know the list. But let's not forget the nugget I just gave you all. Special Master for the Department of Justice, Jack Smith, has requested the recordings from Grossberg. My apologies, I said Grossman. I had to go back and change that. I had it correct on my video. I did change it on the video that's linked in the description of this video. I changed it because somewhere along the line somebody told me that it was Grossman, but it's Grossberg. My apologies. Tucker's in a world of trouble because he allowed his ego to get the best of him. And for those of you that love to go, but you're reaching. No, think about at the height of COVID, even now, the amount of nurses and doctors, even one nurse, we covered her a couple weeks ago, who ended her career to go out to sow discourse and give out knowingly disinformation. It is more profitable to sow discourse. They don't care what the repercussions are. Tucker Carlson's base at the moment is so paranoid and so riled up. Delivery drivers are being murdered left and right now. People are being murdered and shot at for coming to doors, pulling into driveways, delivering Instacart, because they're being told everybody but them is the boogeyman. But almost daily, we find out who the boogeyman really is, and they reside in the grand old party. You know, the party of getting over profits, grifting on purpose, guaranteeing old pedophiles. Need I go on? Now, if y'all remember last week when I gave you all an update on the document leak suspect and the fact that he had delayed his bond hearing, etc., which kind of gave a little heads up that he's probably working with the government, given that his intention was not to sell secrets. He just young, dumb, and wanted some clout online and should have known better coming from a military family, but I digress. Remember, I told you all that one of the people that was taking that information and spreading it like wildfire was an individual that was running a pro-Russia site. We have more information on that. But y'all should have known that.
The Wall Street Journal has just published this bizarre report about one of the largest, most widely followed pro-Kremlin, pro-Russia, pro-Putin social media networks on Earth. First of all, the amazing thing that they report is that this network apparently is controlled by an American woman who is reportedly pretending to be Russian. She is pretending to have been born in eastern Ukraine. She was not born in eastern Ukraine. She was born in New Jersey. She has reportedly been running this major online network supporting Russia in the war in Ukraine with accounts on Telegram and Twitter and YouTube and Spotify. There's even a podcast where she apparently speaks in a kind of fake Russian accent. The Wall Street Journal is describing her linked social media accounts as a prominent online voice supporting Russia's war in Ukraine, describing it as among the most widely followed English language social media outlets promoting Russia's views. And what the Wall Street Journal is reporting now is amazing on a few different levels. You know the classified documents that were allegedly posted online on that gaming server, that Discord gaming server by that 21-year-old Massachusetts Air National Guardsman who's now been arrested? Part of the mystery around that story has not just been how did a kid who looks like he's 11 years old get access to documents that secret. Another part of the sort of logistical mystery of it has been the timing of it all, because this young man allegedly posted all these documents, classified documents. He posted them online starting in December and January, but they didn't come to public attention until much later, until this month. Well, according to the Wall Street Journal, part of the reason that happened the way it did is because one particular social media account with a big following, this one social media account with a big following for being pro-Russian and pro-Putin, the one run secretly by this American woman, her Telegram account started posting these documents to their own Telegram account a couple of weeks ago on April 5th. So the Massachusetts Airmen had been posting them on this Discord server. It was this woman, apparently, or at least the network she was running, that circulated them more broadly by posting them on Telegram. She has a large following on Telegram by pro-Russia, pro-Putin, pro-Kremlin interests. Big Russian accounts started picking up these documents only after she posted them to Telegram, started circulating them more widely, and then that's when the Pentagon finally noticed them and started investigating. There's a bunch of things that are very interesting about this. I mean, one, this pro-Putin social media network, which played this key role, apparently, in circulating these classified documents, the woman who reportedly runs that network is not only American, even though she claims to be Russian, but until November, according to the Wall Street Journal, she was in the United States Navy, stationed at Whidbey Island. That seems like a problem. Another point here, perhaps a bigger problem here, is that there is a Fox News Channel problem associated with this. In this whole scandal about these classified documents being posted online, you might have heard along the way that some of the documents were altered. So it wasn't just that this was all classified material that the public was never supposed to see. Part of the issue here was that some of these documents were altered from what they originally said. Well, according to the Wall Street Journal, the changed documents, the doctored documents, are the ones that were posted online by this woman, or by the network that she was running, this pro-Putin, pro-Russia social media network, which put these things into wider circulation. Specifically, what was changed? Well, one of these documents was changed to make Russian casualties in the war look way lower than they were, and to make Ukrainian casualties look way higher than they were. In other words, this one document was doctored to make it look like Russia was doing way better in the war than they actually are, and to make it look like Ukraine was losing really badly. Another way to put it is the way they put it when they discussed it on Fox News.
The second thing we learned from these slides is that despite direct U.S. involvement, Ukraine is in fact losing the war. 7 Ukrainians are being killed for every Russian.
Ukraine is losing the war. Ukraine is losing the war. 7 Ukrainians are being killed for every Russian. That's not actually what you can learn from the slides. That's what you can learn from the documents that were allegedly posted online by this Massachusetts Air National Guardsman who was arrested that week. But then, in order to get that 7 Ukrainians killed for every 1 Russian killed, in order to get that, you could only learn that from the slides that were crudely doctored by the pro-Russia, pro-Putin social media network that circulated the classified information in the first place, but only reportedly, after changing the documents to try to make it look like Russia's war, is going way better than it is. So how did these documents get into circulation? This weird pro-Russia social media network affiliated with somebody who just got out of the U.S. Navy, that is the network that also circulated the fake documents that were altered crudely to make it look like Russia is definitely winning the war and Ukraine is definitely losing. And that's the document that Fox News highlighted on their network last Thursday night.
Yeah. Remember I told you all last week that this woman is a non-commissioned naval officer. Remember we were wondering why these particular documents were tampered with? We know why. Because she's pro-Putin, pro-Russia, for whatever reason. Only thing I can think of, money. Real quick before we round this out with DeSantis, because yes, he made new. We're going to get into it. But Elon Musk, because we always have to talk about him at least once a week, because he's always doing something, lost $13 billion in one day, and Tesla stock dropped. Also yesterday, former officer Kim Potter was released after serving 15 months. Now, she is... officials can drop in on her at any time. She cannot own a firearm, be in a home with a firearm, be around a firearm, all of these different things. We'll see. We'll see how that goes, because she couldn't tell the difference between a taser and a firearm, so she might have firearms around and claim that they were tasers. I said what I said. Now let's get into Mr. Ron DeSantis, and it appears that more and more Florida residents are just over his shit and shenanigans. Especially since he decided to fly to Japan instead of the affected cities in his state, while making it seem like President Biden wasn't doing what he was supposed to do regarding the residents of Florida. But DeSantis has not been on the job for a while. This is too many no call, no shows for me. I don't know about y'all in Florida. Oh, and he admits that he ignores polls. That's like saying that you ignored your yearly review at work. You're an elected official that doesn't care about your constituency. Okay, DeSatan. Let's take a look at these three clips. C1, 2, and 2. Y'all know how we do.
He hasn't even been reelected for 6 months. And while we're in legislative session right now and the state legislature is doing their business, he's in South Carolina and Iowa. I think he's up here in Washington tomorrow meeting with people where his focus should be in Florida. Floridians want him to be focused on Florida. That's what he signed up for his job for reelection to do.
And before we continue, let's not forget that this past election cycle, he was asked point blank by his opponent, could he promise the residents of Florida that he would fulfill his term as governor? He still hasn't overturned that law that says that if you're going to run for an additional office while in gubernatorial office, you must resign. Well, let's continue.
We reject the culture of losing that has infected the Republican Party in recent years. And so I told myself before taking office, I'm not going to poll issues to tell me what to think. And to this day, I have never consulted a poll about any decision I've made as governor. Leaders don't be captive to polls. Leaders get ahead of public opinion, chart the course, and then the people follow. My view is we got to go on offense. We need to be leaning into issues. We need to be raising issues when other people aren't willing to do it. And we are not going to worry about what the left and the media say about us. We are going to do what is right.
Okay, we still have one more video, but I have a quick question. If you're not paying attention to polls, how can you get ahead of any opinion? Because you won't know what the opinions are. Make it make sense. This is why in politics, I don't really trust anybody with the name Ron, but let's go.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is currently on an international trip to Asia for some reason and is getting mocked mercilessly for his answer to a pretty straight question. DeSantis was asked by a reporter about being behind Trump in the polls, and this was his response.
Governor, polls show you falling behind Trump. Any thoughts on that?
I'm not a candidate, so we'll see if and when that changes.
So as to be somewhat expected, everybody is now calling him Bobblehead Ron. But he surely has to expect these kinds of questions, especially on a foreign trip. No one in Japan cares about Florida. So this will underline the case that Ron DeSantis is not quite ready for prime time, and Trump will have a field day with the bobblehead thing.
You have a gasoline crisis. You have portions of your state that were underwater for far too long. You created a situation with Disney. You flew in the wee hours of the night and signed a despicable, inhumane abortion ban. You had a secret closed door signing that would benefit the NRA. Further endangering children and the most vulnerable within the state of Florida. Insurance rates are skyrocketing. Rental rates and the cost of living are skyrocketing. But you're in Japan as a governor, not an ambassador, not as a First of all, y'all should have known something was wrong when he was in Congress and then backtracked to become a governor. I guess, as always, check out the links in the description of this video. And thank you all for joining me here on Conversations with Taz for Talk About It Tuesday. Excuse me. I will see you all tomorrow with the resident Ginger for Get Into It with Taz and Chris. And yes, before you ask, we will be talking about the comments made by Phil Jackson, amongst other things, because you know we will. You know we will. But I want to leave y'all with a bit of humor. No, it's not an SNL skit. Yes, this is really something put out by the conservatives, but have a good chuckle at their expense. And as always, each one teach one, each one reach one. Till tomorrow, y'all.
So the Republican Party just released a Real Women of Politics advertisement, and it is one of the worst things I've ever seen. It's cringy, it's fake, and it's just another failed attempt at fighting wokeness, as they would call it. Just take a look at the clip.
America presents Real Women of Politics.
Real women of politics.
Today we salute all the real woman leaders of this great country.
Real women don't have to fake it.
Real women doing real things.
Real women work too hard for this.
Some big companies can't tell the difference between real and fake anymore.
Real people know the difference.
That's why we're introducing the Real Women of Politics koozie.
Real women of politics.
Now, you can salute the Real Women of Politics at every backyard barbecue and tailgate. And if it covers up the label of a big woke company, well, that works too.